welcome back to the 60s and 70s TV shows and fashion. I'm Ashley, and if you're new here, welcome. I am a lover of all things 60s and 70s fashion, of course, the movies, specifically the horror movies, the music, TV, everything in between, just not the values. So let's get started. Today, we are featuring a show that is one of my all-time favorite TV shows. It's definitely a comfort show for me, but you may know it by the theme or the car, kind of iconic. The father's laugh,
Thank you.
again, iconic. These are all things that we think of when we think of the TV show The Munsters. Airing from 1964 to 1966 on CBS, it is now a classic TV show that is seen in reruns and now all kinds of streaming networks. But originally, the TV show was considered to be a cartoon series. The reason I'm featuring this on our 60s and 70s TV and fashion is you're probably thinking, that's weird, the fashion? Yes, the fashion. And we are going to talk about that. But also, this show holds a special place in my heart. Number one, because it is a show that when I was little, I used to watch it either when I was homesick from school or just on reruns in general. And I absolutely loved it because when I was little, my dad loved horror classics like the Universal Monsters. When I was really little, I was kind of scared of those movies. So a good introduction for me with him was the Munsters, a really ease into the horror genre with characters that depicted the horror icons, but were actually really sweet, loving, and funny. And that really started my peak interest into the horror genre was the Munsters. Now, it did star a cast of characters that were based on the Universal characters, slightly switched, so for copyright reasons, the makeup couldn't be exactly the same, but everybody knew who they were kind of showcasing. For example, Herman, the father, was definitely after Frankenstein the monster. Lily, the beautiful, caring wife, was based off of A Vampire Bride. And of course, the grandfather, the grandfather, him and Herman getting into their schemes. The grandfather was based on kind of semi Dracula, but more of just a vampire in general. Their cute, precocious son, Eddie, was based on the Wolfman. And then, of course, they had to add into the mix a niece. And the reason why was because this show really was ahead of its time. It was kind of social commentary that was lying beneath all of these storylines that they were doing. And what I mean by that is the niece was normal. She looked straight out of Leave It to Beaver. And she could be part of a nuclear family, which was something that was a part of the early 50s and 60s culture, that nuclear family of like the picture perfect family. And everyone had a house with a white picket fence. And she looked like she could step off one of those TV shows. And what they did with that is they really showcased how people can be different and you don't have to necessarily judge them, or people can have different ideas of what's normal and they still can be good people and caring, and they just have their own path. And that's kind of what the Munsters showcased with having Marilyn in the mix, and a lot of good storylines came from that. And what I absolutely love is how she was just like the odd one in the family to them. They just like couldn't understand. They're just like, oh, poor thing, like the way she looks. And their idea of beautiful was something different. And that's a good lesson. Everyone's idea of something beautiful can be different. It doesn't have to be the social norm. So this show really was ahead of its time. And the show really did, it questioned that. It questioned social norms and what could be normal. And in the early 60s, people were really pushing the envelope with this. So this show was kind of showcasing that. So essentially, what was The Munsters about? It was about a family trying to live their life with normal problems, just in a setting that was different. Gothic atmosphere and styles. A father, mother, son, and grandfather, oh yes, and the niece, who was to them not normal. But she was a picture of what was standard at the time of the nuclear family from the 50s, early 60s. Now, each show faced the problems that were like that of a nuclear family, but yet different because of the Munsters' Gothic look and lifestyle. It was comedy, but yet there was always a great underlying lesson of just because someone is different, it doesn't mean they're bad or should be treated a certain way. Now, yes, the Munsters did air from 1964 to 66, but it also had many reincarnations and movies with a lot of the same cast returning, but there were a couple of switches in the lineup in some of the renditions. They are definitely one of the most loved families on TV, and also it was just a little something different. Now, The Munsters was filmed in black and white to kind of keep that gothic mystique. In later creations of the series, they definitely went color, and it opened up a whole new world to the Munsters, adding the color. I remember I truly loved watching the black and white when I was younger, but then when I got to see the colored version of these Munsters, it was kind of exciting. So I love both. So if you're again new here or you've been here before, you know the deal. We're gonna go over some of the top episodes and then of course the peak fashion in the series. And I know that seems really strange because it's the Munsters, but don't worry. There are two characters that we're going to focus on, one being Lily and the other being Marilyn, the niece. So two different styles, but yet they really showcase the fashion of the time, which is kind of cool. The first episode, and this is one of the first episodes I actually remember seeing when I was little, is called My Fair Munster. And it was from season 1 and actually was the second episode of the series. And it is about where Lily attempts to find Marilyn a suitor. And so you can only imagine chaos ensues because from the Munsters' eyes, Marilyn is, deformed in a way. Like they think like they're like, oh, she's not. They don't think in their eyes she's beautiful because their idea of beauty is so different. And it's so funny because it does bring that comedy factor, but it makes you see again, like beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. Like that may not be attractive to some people. And so they treat her as such. They treat her like, oh man, we need to find her somebody because like we don't know if she's gonna find like, someone that's interested in her because of like the way that she looks. Like they feel bad for her almost, and it's a little bit comical in that sense. Now, it really begins with Marilyn on a date, and she brings the date home, and basically he runs away after seeing her uncle, who is Herman Munster, aka kind of a vision of Frankenstein's monster, basically. And this keeps happening to her, and they have this conversation as a family as like, she keeps chasing these boys off, not realizing it's them in the way that they look. They think it's actually the problem is Marilyn. And so Lily is determined to find her a suitor because she just wants her niece to be happy ultimately. Well, grandpa comes in and he's always trying to fix things in this show. He's always trying to come up with a solution with his magic. He's always in the basement doing some potions, and he thinks he needs to make a potion for Marilyn. He dumps it into the oatmeal. She doesn't end up eating the oatmeal, and then Herman, Lily, and Eddie end up eating it. So chaos ensues. And it is a really it's a classic episode. It showcases the love of like the family, how they want to make each other happy, but also just the quirkiness of the idea of these monsters living together and what can happen in a slightly weird alternate universe of a nuclear family. And I love that. The next one, I think I actually love this episode because I've worked in the world of hair. I was a hairstylist, so it has to do with that. And this one is called The Most Beautiful Ghoul in the World. And it is from season 2. It is episode 19. And what happens is the family inherits money and they decide to split it up. So Grandpa and Herman are going to get the money because they want to make an invention. And Lily and Marilyn decide to open a beauty salon. Okay. Now, while they're working on their invention, Herman and Grandpa, the girls are doing their beauty salon and they have these people come in. And I love it because it's just again, Lily's idea of like beauty is very different than Marilyn's. What ends up happening is they end up making these two women bald. And these women are like so upset and distraught, and they're like, we're going to sue them. So they end up suing Marilyn and Lily. They get this letter in the mail that says that, and they're like, what are we gonna do? Like, this is all like we're gonna have to use all our money, like what because they want money from it. And so Grandpa and Herman admit that somehow their machines were linked with the beauty salon and what they were doing, and that's what made these ladies bald. So they're kind of like, and then after like panicking, the ladies come to Lily and Marilyn's door, and their hair's grown back and it's gorgeous. And they're like, you have an amazing product. Basically, what happened was it took away our old hair and we grew back this beautiful, like magical hair. So they're like, you need to sell your product. We want to basically partner with you. Let's make some money. So now Lily and Marilyn are like, yes, we did it. Like, this is amazing. And the boys are going to be happy. So they go to inform the boys and they're like, we just destroyed the machine. So now they're like, they go downstairs, they try to like fix the machine, and they don't end up fixing it. But it is just a great episode in showcasing what like beauty again is the eye of the beholder to these monsters. But it's just like a classic case of like a sitcom where someone inherits money and a scheme is invented and chaos ensues. But it is just a great episode. I love the beauty salon factor of it. Like that attracts me to it. And I loved just like seeing like again like what Lily was doing to all these people that were coming to the salon and things like that. It made my heart sing. And I think I'm just biased because I don't know how I can like show this. I have a Lily Munster tattoo just because I just absolutely adore her and I think she's like a classic lady. So if those of you that don't know, I do have an arm of just I like to call it my spooky bitches arm. I know, so eloquent. It's just my spooky lady's arm, to be honest. And it has all my favorite like horror icons. So we have Lily, we have wow, I can't think of her name, Lydia from Beetlejuice, in a more like in a different type of vibe. Um, we have Sabrina, but the one from the Chilling Adventures. We have the bride. She's up here. And I think that's it. I think. Yes, that is it. That is it. Those are all the ladies right there. Oh, I do have where is she? She's like higher up. I can't show you Wednesday. I do have Wednesday, of course. We got to have Wednesday on there. But she is one of my favorites, and that this episode really kind of focuses on her and just like the way that, like beauty. So I think that's why I chose it. It was one of my top episodes. You may think different. Now, the last episode is probably one of the more classic episodes that a lot of people do gravitate towards and like, or you've seen clips of it, especially like online on social media. This clip goes around a lot. And the episode is Eddie's nickname, and it's episode 19 from season one. So this is where Grandpa tries to make Eddie taller, but gives him a beard instead. Kids are calling him Shorty at school, and this leads to a speech that is one of my favorite Munster moments. I love it. I love the message of this episode. And the speech basically is it doesn't matter what anybody looks like, it matters what's in here.
The lesson I want you to learn is it doesn't matter what you look like. You can be tall or short, or fat or thin, or ugly, or handsome, like your father. You can be black or yellow or white. It doesn't matter. What does matter is the size of your heart and the strength of your character.
Eddie, do you understand what your father means? Well, now, Eddie, now that you've...
That is something that I will consistently stand by. It doesn't matter what anybody looks like. It matters in here. It matters their heart, it matters their intent and how they treat people. And I really believe like that's a big message consistently in the Munsters, and that's why I think I've always loved it, is because it does have that message. But
What does matter is the size of your heart and the strength of your character.
now, my favorite part, the fashion of the Munsters. Now, here's the deal. The show started in 64 and ended in 66. So, a little bit of range here. 66, 67 is kind of my peak time in fashion. I love mod. I love like a little bit of hippie fashion. So, 64 was really more of a year where, yes, there was a little bit of a youthquake happening, but it didn't explode yet. So 64 was also like that early 60s look. So think Jackie Kennedy, Audrey Hepburn, chic sophistication, slightly pushing the envelope, but nothing huge. So think tailored suits, suit jackets with skirts, a little bit of the A-line dresses, but they weren't getting too short yet. It was kind of the beginning of the movement. Now, fast forward to the later seasons, 66, and also the Munster movie, you're going to see a little bit more bold fashion, a little bit more patterns, colors, and also a little bit slight nod to mod fashion with Marilyn. So that really starts to take hold. Now, the two characters we're going to look at in the fashion is going to be, of course, Lily Munster, and you're probably like, very weird, Ashley, very weird, but you'll get it. You'll get it when I start talking about it. And then, of course, Marilyn, because she was like the normal one. And she did have some great fashion that really represented the time frame. Now, as I was kind of researching this, I really realized that to get the contrast in this show, it was almost kind of like reflecting the times. And what I mean by that is the shift of fashion and the youth culture was different between the Munsters and Marilyn's look. And I really feel like watching the show, I feel like in a way that reflected the fashion scene. Now let's look at Lily's style. So, first of all, she has the best capes. The capes, iconic. Obviously, she has her classic cape that's kind of like ribbed and very long, has a little bit of a cape that she can put over. And it's kind of that classic cape that you always think of when you think of Lily Munster. We love that. Chef's kiss. Now, yes, capes were popular at the time, but not that long and not with that kind of texture. But imagine we shorten it a little bit, add maybe a little bit of bright and bold colors, can make it a little bit of a mod look. Just saying. Now, another cape that I really enjoyed was in one of the episodes, she has like this fancy cape. It's kind of on the collar in the trim, got a texture to it. And of course, the armholes, it's short a little bit, it's longer, but not as long as her classic cape. I call this her fancy cape. I don't know why, but I do. And I love this look. I think it's great. Again, it's longer because of that gothic vibe that she has going on. But imagine if you shorten that a little bit, maybe make it to your waist. You could definitely replicate it into a cool mod style that would be fashionable in the 60s. And then she has another like kind of fancy cape, but it's more like bedazzled. There's a little bit of like sequin action going on. And I feel like she just had, I feel like when going out, instead of giving her like coats, pea coats were really popular in this time. To make it a little bit more on trend of her gothic attire, they just chose capes, which works great, but capes were popular during this time. Like a short cape with, bold colors and geometric patterns, that was in fashion. They just made it adapted to be more gothic, and I kind of am here for it. If you don't know, before that I started this channel, I had a job where I had to wear all black. So I definitely appreciate like the gothic aesthetic. I want to add color into my life, and I really have a love of the 60s and 70s and always have. So for me, it's kind of a cocktail of both of my worlds of before I kind of discovered my style and after. So I do enjoy that, but I definitely would love to find more bold, colorful versions of Lily's capes. And who doesn't love like a good cape? I love them. Whether you can like just put your arms through them, or if it's actually like a long cape where your arms are covered. Both I absolutely adore and were very fashionable at the time. Now, dresses. Lily, majority of the time, wore her iconic dress, which was a flowing dress with bell sleeves and very cinched at the waist with, oh, I love her bat necklace. Like I love a good statement necklace. And at the time, pearls were definitely in and statement necklaces. This was a take on a statement necklace, but in a gothic kind of realm, right? But I enjoy it. I love a statement necklace. What can I say? And really, basically, with that dress, they took styles from the era that they were in, the 60s, and just made it more gothic themed. And really, a staple of that is the bell sleeves. And where else do you think of like bell sleeves and kind of witchy attire? Bewitched. And Dora was a great example of that, except when we got into the later seasons, we had amazing colored, long, gothic bell sleeve dresses. Now, hers were brighter. Lily's a little bit darker in color because of the vibe that she was going for, but I love a good bell sleeve. I'm wearing slightly bell sleeves today. And I love them. I think they are a staple of 60s fashion, and you can wear them underneath vests, you can wear them by themselves, and it can be a shirt or a dress. And I just think there's something that make you feel good. I know for me when I want to like be like I want to do this like all day when I'm wearing bell sleeves. I just think they're a great staple and iconic part of the 60s, and Lily showcased that every single episode. Now, next up is Marilyn, who really was the kind of showcase for the actual fashion that was happening in that time frame. Now, again, Marilyn was kind of the oddball out considered in the show, and she really was an example of what you would see in a nuclear family, ideally. They kind of took like Leave It to Beaver and made it gothic. That's really the idea of the Munsters. And so she was straight out of that. Now, she had a couple of iconic 60s looks, and they really were early 60s staples. Where you see more of a youthquake mod fashion from her is actually in the movie Munsters Go Home. And that was actually in 1966. So it was later on, and 66 was really a big year for that fashion. Now, the first look that from the Munsters TV show, early episodes, think 64, is the polka dot dress, which you'll see in a lot of posters. But what I love about this dress is it was slightly see-through on the arms, which I thought made it look even better. It was a dress that was fitted at the waist and flared out longer. It definitely wasn't too short, probably right above the knees, and had that early 60s feel. Very modest, yet like chic. So it was definitely something that polka dots and patterns were really huge during this time. And I just love a look. I love a good polka dot, but I really loved that sheer sleeve. I thought that was really a pretty added detail to the dress. Now, in Munsters Go Home, the outfits were like the best Marilyn look, to be quite honest. That's my take. Again, it was in 66, so this was the year of mod fashion. So she was kind of looking more mod, which makes my heart sing, that's my favorite. And I just felt like she had a more like 60s vibe to her in this film. Now, again, played by a different actress, but still that Marilyn that we know and love, basically like not thinking she's the oddball out, and her family thinking that as well. And she is just really depicting the time that this movie was made with her fashion. There were a lot of bold colors and patterns used in all of her attire, whether it was a dress or like a set. So we're going to take a look at some of those. The first one is she has a bandana in her hair. a green turtleneck, and a skirt. And I love this look. I love like the bandana look. I love that in the hair. I think it's just a cute accessory. As you can see, I love accessories. Berets are like one of my favorite things. And I just love the look, how it matches. I love a turtleneck. A turtleneck is like a staple piece of the 60s. If you want to start a 60s wardrobe, get a turtleneck and a mini skirt, and that can start the party. And I just overall love the look. I would like it more if the skirt was shorter, but I get, again, Marilyn's character is more of that chic sophistication, so I understand why the skirt length is where it is. There were a lot of great patterned dresses in this movie. Two in particular, I'm going to put the pictures up. But I love bold patterns. And again, this was a big thing in that year, 66, bold patterns, that mod look. And I love that they used, a lot of patterns in her attire in this movie, because in the past she just wore, like pink, or it was a lot of solid colors. It wasn't a lot of bold patterns like we see in Munster Go Home. So I really love that they gave her a little bit more fashion-wise in this movie. And that's where I really enjoyed Marilyn's fashion the most. I appreciate the TV show and the look she was going for, and I get it. But I just think this version of her fashion is just peak like 60s fashion that I enjoy. And I do appreciate, like, there is definitely one like pink outfit. It's like all pink, and it's got like a little like bow in the front that she does wear in like the first season. Love it. But again, I really enjoy the patterns and bold colors that they put on her in this movie. I think they're just great. Now, overall, the show had, yes, absolutely great fashion, and in a different way, which was super fun to see. It took the 60s fashion, but gave it a gothic twist, which was super, super fun to see. And it is an iconic show that most people know and love, and they love it because of the message it gives. It really truly speaks to generations, and the reason it does is because it all goes back to the basic fundamental thing, is that you should always not judge a book by its cover, and that it doesn't matter what somebody looks like. They could have a really great heart and really want to do good in the world. And ultimately, that's all the Munsters wanted to do, is they wanted to do good in the world and just live their life, but yet be themselves. And I think that's a powerful message that resonates now more than ever. So if you've never seen the Munsters, definitely go check out the TV show and the plethora of movies that they have. I would recommend Munster Go Home, probably one of the best ones, but you can check them out on a bunch of different streaming like services. I'm sure. I'm not really sure which one, because they all mesh together at one point, you guys. That's all I'm going to say. But this is a great TV show. If you love fashion and you love a little bit of a gothic twist, you'll absolutely adore it. So until next time, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. That always means the world. And make sure that you check out all the other videos on the playlists. If you liked this video, you'll definitely enjoy the 60s and 70s horror films and fashion, and the timeline series, where I go through not only the fashion of each year from 1960 to 1979, but also the top horror films. I'll see you guys soon, and bye.